I'd say, guys, that looks like snow. Yeah, it's starting to come down, I think. They forecast it in the next hour or so, so I don't know how much we're going to get, but it looks very dark over there. Eastbourne's got a bit. Here comes the snowy stuff, guys. It's a bit wet at the minute. I don't know if it's going to actually get worse or defrost just into rain. Not really sure. It's certainly starting to come down, that's for sure. So guys, I've been sort of at home for the last few weeks now, and decided I better take the car for a run. So I've been out in the countryside, I've gone for a walk as well, also done some food shopping, basically just topped the battery up on the car. As you can see, the weather is, well, you can see it's pretty horrendous. It was pretty windy, as you can see by the wind turbines there. The visibility was pretty terrible. Snow was forecast. Kind of luckily, it didn't do much. It just kind of chucked it down for about 10 minutes and then just turned into rain. But as you can see, visibility was rubbish. It's still a bit interesting. You've got some interesting some textures and tones there, and you know, it's just, even though it does look a bit wintry, it still kind of works. But this sort of situation can be quite hard on people trying to get something a bit unique, quite artistic, get your sort of photography, you know, creativity juices running, etc., etc. Can be quite difficult, especially when the light's rubbish. It wasn't very bright at all. It was just dull. It was horrible, wet and windy. Like I say, it tried to snow. It was cold because obviously everything was frozen still. And yeah, it was just, yeah. So yeah, it's sometimes a bit difficult, and you know, I still go out even in this sort of weather and sort of still try. And sometimes you come across a shot like this, which actually works quite nicely. There's quite a lot going on in it, but it kind of adds a good bit of depth to the image. You can see there's some bad weather coming in the hills and everything like that, but there's a little bit of light this side, and it kind of worked. As you can see here, frozen puddle, trying to see if I can capture something a little bit creative, a little bit interesting. Kind of didn't work really, but you don't know until you try. So yeah, always take the photos today. It doesn't matter. We can take them, look at them, you know, whatever. Same as this, tire treads from a car or a Land Rover or something in the mud, but I've converted to black and white just for more textured kind of look. And also the sky, very, very overcast, no real definition, no interest in a lot of it. Some of it was okay, but as you can see here, this one, so basically I just turned the whites up and just blew the sky out completely, and in black and white actually it's quite good. This shot here of the sugar loaf, which is like a needly type thing, the sky there, some of the snow clouds had obviously, they'd come over and it was looking moody, cloudy, and actually worked quite well. But in black and white it looks interesting. In colour it just looks boring. It could even be a blue sky. It wasn't. It was the overcast stuff, but with some very low dark cloud coming through as well. So in some respects that actually allowed me to get some okay shots. This one here is quite good. This is the shed I've used before, where it's been flooded below the shed there. But I love the view. It's just, I think it's just fabulous. But those big moody clouds hung around for a little while, and then I was having a little wander, and I could see fire. I thought, oh, okay, time for some slow motion. So a little bit of HFR, 250 frames per second and 500 frames per second, depending on which clip it is. And you know, I thought, oh, okay, now we've got light, and now we've got some interest, and so we've got something we can possibly mess around with. So I started. I mean, I've stood, well, as you can see there, quite a long way away from it. Obviously, it's on someone's property, so I was stood in the road as I was walking past, and I could feel the heat. I mean, the heat from this fire was immense. But I just love it. Slow motion video, absolutely wicked. Just really shows you how beautiful fire is, even though it can be very devastating and very painful and very hurtful towards animals and humans and obviously vegetation and other wildlife around the world. But it's memorizing. Was it memorizing? It makes you just want to look at it, you know, the way it flows, and it's just incredible stuff. To video it in slow motion is kind of cool. I mean, you can see what's going on a little bit. I haven't slowed it down too much. I just wanted to keep it going, but it's slowed down quite a bit, 8 times or something like that. And it's just, I don't know, like you say, it's just amazing just to look at. The colours, obviously the oranges and the reds and the yellows in there, absolutely awesome. The darks as well, that kind of give it the shadow and the contrast difference. It's just really, really cool. So, you know, having a little walk around, you know, the weather's rubbish. Haven't really got many shots that I was very pleased with, apart from the shed one and the Sugarloaf shot. But now I've found something that's a bit interesting. You know, I've got the 600mm to play with on the RX10 Mark IV, so I can zoom in from a long way away and actually get some interesting shots like this without getting burnt for two, and two, obviously I'm not trespassing on someone else's property. But it's allowed me to actually get the shots that I wanted and getting some cool stuff like this. And the best thing about the RX10 is you've got that 1/32,000th of a second shutter speed. So when you need it, that sort of real fast shutter speed like this, you know, you can lose the background in manual. So you just basically take, you know, you're using that light and the fire, and you just lose the background pretty much. That was actually awesome. Really adds a bit of definition and sort of sharpness to the fire. So where it's gone from being smooth and everything, it looks quite angry now. Almost, you can almost see faces and you know, almost like dragons and stuff in the fire, depending on where you look at it and things like that. It's really kind of interesting. So these were shot sort of like anywhere between ISO 100, f4, and anywhere between sort of 1/3000th of a second upwards. You know, and I did crank up to 1/32,000th at one point. I did increase the ISO a little bit just to balance the light a little bit, but I wanted to freeze the action. So, you know, but you get the real dark, you know, to the right hand side there, and then the deep colours of the oranges and the reds, and then you know, even sort of blends in. I just find it really interesting. But like I say, it's one of the most devastating things to mankind, fire, but also one of the most beautiful at the same time. You know, you've got all these different tones of colours and yellows and oranges and reds, and it just looks awesome, you know. So really, really pleased that, you know, I found this as I was out and about, because there was nothing. It was literally just so dull and cold, and you know, it was really warm as well, which was really quite pleasant. So that was a, you know, one bonus. I sort of stood there for 10 minutes. But as you can see, you know, it's endless. So the stuff you can do, just with interest, you can go closer, further out, wider angle, stuff like that to make a little bit of difference. And then I started slowing the shutter speeds down, so I cranked the aperture down to sort of f16, f14, f13, something like that. Drop the ISO down, so I was sort of doing 1/3 of a second, something like that, and I was getting some really lovely flowy fiery shots like this. And because it's long exposures, I can't really see what's actually being captured until I actually look at the pictures later. Obviously when you're taking you know, high shutter speed shots, you kind of get a flash in your eye of kind of what you've got, so you know, it kind of works. But you know, this last shot coming up is probably my favourite one. I have tweaked it a little bit just to kind of bring the shapes out a little bit, but it's kind of almost like a bird of prey. You can almost see the head there. I've just pulled the wing down a little bit, and I've just given almost a bit more of a neck and everything like that, just to kind of add a bit of interest to it. So you know, being a little bit creative with the editing as well, a little bit sometimes. I mean, it took me 10 seconds, but it kind of works. You can kind of use your imagination a little bit and see it. You know, it's almost got an eye there as well. Which is really cool, and just shows you that, you know, even though the weather's terrible, you know, I wish it was actually chucking down with rain. It kind of stopped very quickly, which is a shame. But it would have been quite cool, you know, shots in the rain as well. And I don't mind shooting in the rain; it's not really an issue. But you know, it's a shame it hadn't chucked it down with snow the night before, because that would have been an interesting walk as well. Could have been lots of white stuff everywhere, which a lot of people have got further up the country, which we don't seem to have had. But yeah, just thought I'd show you those guys, you know, just because the weather's rubbish and it's just near, and you know, it's going to be difficult to get the creativity going. Sometimes it's worth, you know, persevering with the time you've got and going out and having an explore, even in the weather that is rubbish. So anyway guys, I shall see you soon. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, little notification bell as well. Any questions about the RX10 and all the other Sony cameras that I use, feel free to ask, and I shall see you soon.